rebuilding confidence, and harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zymet.
Welcome to the Beverly Zymet Show, where being the best you has just gotten easier. My guest today is Sophia Mosley, and she is calling in from the UK. Welcome to the show, Sophia.
Thank you. Hello.
So, how many times have you been on shows and podcasts and all kinds of stuff now, especially with this crazy upside down world?
Well, this is my first podcast, so thank you. I have been on local TV station when the book that I'm part of was first published in February. So just before we dived into lockdown, thank goodness, I was invited to go onto a local TV show and just talk about it, which I must say was quite daunting. Hidden for nearly 50 years. So, yeah. I'm a newbie.
You're a newbie. Yeah, but you know what? You got to start somewhere, right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is actually just a talk show. It's not a podcast. And it's interesting, when I first started getting involved in a lot of this, it's like, so what is the difference between all of these different kind of shows? It's basically just the word and wherever you publish it. Isn't that crazy?
I am slowly, very slowly getting used to all of these words and
right.
All these newfangled things that we can now do that I had no idea. I mean, when I was growing up, it was the paper and a few TV shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is getting your mind around everything can take a little bit of time.
But there's a lot. It's interesting, talking with people from over in the UK, because I've had a lot of guests on from the UK in the last couple of weeks. And interestingly enough, it's like a lot of them weren't even aware of Zoom. Or just starting to get into it. It's like, oh, we've had it over here for years, and it's like, what? Really? That didn't make sense, But the technology is definitely interesting. I mean, it's so enthralled and just so widely spread, and the uniqueness and stuff. Because I can remember, back in the 80s when they're saying, pretty soon we're going to have a phone where you're going to be able to see each other when you're talking, and it's like, yeah, right. Sure. And then, then all of a sudden in the late 80s, they came out with the cell phones. I mean, that thing was massive. It was huge. You had to hook it up in your car, and it weighed a ton. And you want to talk about airtime? Oh my gosh. You had to have a second job to pay for it,
Oh my God.
Oh my, yeah, it was crazy. It was funny. I think it was probably in like 87, 88, one of the shops that I was dealing with had gotten a cell phone, and it was one that you didn't have to have hooked up in the car. And it was probably about this size, but it was probably about 3 times as wide as this, right? And he is showing it off and just bragging about it like this was so cool, A month later, I said, "Where's your cell phone?" He goes, "Oh, I had to get rid of it. I had an $800 phone bill."
Wow.
because the airtime was so expensive, and again, you don't see it, cranking up. It's kind of like sitting in front of a slot machine, right? You got your credit card in there. You're just going away because you don't know that it's, cracking up the monies, and oh my goodness, it was interesting. It was so interesting. But that was the end of that one. So, but it's pretty amazing what we can do. And there's something I'm going to share with you after the show on virtual reality. Are you familiar with virtual reality, with the little avatars that jump around?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. Like I said, I'm kind of new, and I was one of them people that hadn't use Zoom before, but I was really proud because I've used it a few times for networking things, and my youngest daughter had to use it for school, and I taught her how to use it, and it was like a little win. I went out the room and I was like, yes, I knew something that she didn't know. So yeah, anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm a slow learner.
Yeah. It actually comes pretty fast. It's like anything, if you just move the fear out of the way and say, okay, it's a new way of doing things. I just got to do it. And so the avatar world is usually known for gaming. Where all the games and stuff are played. And I've never been a gamer, so that was like, okay, whatever, And but I've been looking for a year and a half to do workshops and classes and stuff in a virtual setting, not even really knowing and understanding what that meant at the time I was talking about it. And a dear friend of mine, that I had shared that with, called me in January and he says, Beverly, I got your answer. I got your virtual answer. And it's like, okay. So he takes me into this virtual reality world, and there was this university all decked out just like a college university, right? I'm like, oh my gosh. So he's showing me classrooms and he's showing me auditoriums, and it's like, that's it. That's it. That's how I want to do this, right? And things just kind of started moving along pretty fast, and we decided, we're going to go into business with this and see what we could do to work with networking and tie it in with the show and the whole enchilada. And it was amazing how things started progressing really pretty fast, and then I had a wild idea that I wanted to do expos in there. So we had vendor tables and everything, right? And the pandemic happened, and then everything imploded. I mean, it just exploded exponentially. We were having people calling us, wanting to get on. How can we do this? How can we do that? So our business really started to flourish, and it almost kind of got out of control because we had no clue it was going to just take off like this. We were just moving right along our own little pace, and boom, So it's interesting, and I'll have to share that with you because we launched last weekend, and it was a beautiful launch. And so now we're getting geared up for the next one, and it's pretty fascinating when you start seeing everything and how it works. So that's communication. And now in this crazy world of this pandemic and everything, people are learning how to get more creative. How do we have that connection? Because we weren't meant to be separated, right?
No.
And so, yeah. So it's, what can you do to kind of close that gap of the distancing and not being associated with people? Now, the Zoom is nice because you're able to see the person you're talking to, but when you're in the actual virtual reality world, you've got a little avatar. So there's two little avatars that are jumping around in there, right? And you're standing side by side with your voice talking to another avatar. The psyche, the mind says, oh, there's a person there. This is real. That's what they call it, virtual reality, right? So the essence of it is it brings that human element of closeness back together, which is so needed right now and so missed, right?
Yeah.
And so to be able to do that in different environments, and we're doing it in a university environment, we're doing a lot of educational products and different things like that as well. So students can come in and, learn a lot of different things. And so we've talked to some school districts and things. So we're kind of putting some of that together, which is kind of interesting. But it gives them the setting where they can be behind a desk, and they can have another desk next to them, someone sitting there, like their friend from school, right? And they can have a conversation and feel like they're connected, right?
That's amazing, isn't it? That really is amazing, and probably quite good timing as well.
Yeah, we were in the right place at the right time on this one.
Yeah, definitely. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
But I just, sometimes I'm gobsmacked at how what quick pace we are moving, really, and changing. We're changing quickly.
Right. Yeah, it's part of that survival thing, right? And the technology has like kind of been there, but it just kind of wasn't maybe associated with, or it's like, oh, I'll do that later. It's like everything is working good here. I don't want to upset my little flow, because we get in that comfort zone, right?
Yeah, because that's an easy place to be, isn't it? The comfort zone. I know, I've been there for forever.
Yeah.
And it's only here where I've stepped out of my comfort zone. It's easier.
Yeah.
But I think the point comes where it's harder to stay where you are than take that step out.
Right.
That's been my experience. I've got to the point where it's harder to stay here than go where I want to go, even though I'm going to have to pull up my socks, kick myself, get go.
Well, that's one of the biggest insecurities or phobias or whatever you want to call it, is change. People don't like change, even if they're miserable where they are in that comfort zone. It's predictable, so the change is the toughest thing. But when you look at what just happened here over the last few months, I mean, some massive changes, totally unexpected, just dumped, almost forced on you. I mean, you had no other option. It was just boom, and it was there, right? And everybody's scrambling like, what the heck just happened? The dust settled a little bit, and, now it's like, wow, where do we go from here? Because the normal is not normal anymore. And so this new norm is going to have a whole different look, and feel. So we are definitely in some interesting times, and technology, I think, is going to be like the saving grace, for a lot of businesses, for a lot of just that social interaction and everything that's needed. That's so needed right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, because we all feel now and again, Cora, I want to be on my own. I want to cocoon myself. But at some point, you do need to connect with others, don't you? You need, whether it's to uplift you, whether it's to uplift them, or just to moan. You need, or like you said, business. We need each other for business. So, yeah, we need each other. That's why these phones have been excellent, haven't they? I've been FaceTiming everybody.
Well, you watch the social medias have just exploded with videos. Video was starting to pick up a little bit more, but man, this pandemic hit, and everybody's out there wanting to do a Facebook Live and all this stuff, and so totally inundated with videos. And that's, so, when I do my show, because it goes out on all the different social medias, right? And now it's even more important if you're looking to start any type of show or podcasting, video, with business. You need to have something that's going to set you apart from the norm. Otherwise, you're going to just fall into all that chatter with everybody else out there just, doing whatever they want on a live or something, right? So there has to be that distinguishing between.
Yeah, and there is a lot of chatter at the minute, isn't there? Because like you just said, videoing everything. And sometimes
see me, I want to see you. Where are you?
Yeah, and sometimes it's too much. Sometimes it's, I've had a few days where I've just not looked at anything because there was just too much noise. Sometimes you need to not have all that noise. You need something a bit more fulfilling. You need something a little bit, not just it's like for me, it's like watching The Simpsons over and over again. My brain's dying. It's like just too much. Now and again, it's fine.
Right.
So yeah, but technology is great. Really is great. I mean, I definitely wouldn't have moved along in my journey as I did if it wasn't for technology and communicating and connecting with other ladies via places. So I'm so grateful.
Okay, you mentioned earlier that you wrote a book.
I did. Well, I wrote a chapter in a book. There was 14 of us. I was number 13, which I was pleased about. That I was the unlucky number. We all wrote a chapter about overcoming adversity or darkness or something during our past, and mine was about my childhood, my abusive childhood, so which I hadn't shared before. So yeah, it was a big step.
It's
And
freeing though, isn't it? When you start to just let that all out, and unless you've done that, it's hard to explain how freeing that really is. Because, I did the same thing with my story. And, once you got it out, the first time was probably the hardest. And then you said it again, then you said it again, and then you put it in writing, and now the world can see it. But it's uplifting and it's freeing, and it also makes an impact on other people's lives too, who have gone through some of that, didn't know who to talk to or what to say. You started, because you feel shame, you feel guilt, you blame yourself, all these crazy things that are going through your head, when really, as a child, you don't know, right?
no, exactly. And right up until the moment where it was going to be published, I started to think, oh, what have I done? Oh my God, what have I done? And then I got an email from the local paper, and I got an email from the local telly. And if it wasn't the fact that I was doing it with other ladies, and I had a strong feeling I can't ever let anyone else down, I had this very strong, if it had been me, I probably would have hit. But because there were some other ladies involved, I had to put on my big girl knickers and go and just do it. And it was only afterwards, I received a lot of messages and emails afterwards, thanking me, and people I know, don't know, people that I know saying, oh my gosh, I didn't realise, and I just stood there and I thought, wow. And I hadn't realised that I felt so much guilt and shame.
Right.
Oh, I'm 50 next year, so all of these years I hadn't realised that's what I was carrying, and I described it as if I had a backpack on, and it was just filled with guilt and shame. And I just thought to myself, why do I feel guilt and shame? It all kind of slotted into place. It was kind of like,
right.
And I just thought, wow, and that's been stopping me doing that, and that stopped me doing that, and I just thought, oh my gosh. And I am a completely different person than I was, say, in January.
Right.
And I'm me. I'm completely me. I'm completely the crazy Sophie, whose mum, yes, was an alcoholic, yes, was a criminal, yes, went to prison, and all these other things. Yes, I'm all that, but I'm a whole lot more, and I've embraced it all. And it is freeing. It is amazing, and it's put me on the path to tell the rest, because I only shared a very little bit, and I'm now in the place where I've got the rest written, and I'm ready. I'm ready
to share the rest of the story, and that's beautiful, because you're helping so many other people, whether they speak their stories or not. You're helping them say, oh my gosh, I can forgive myself, I can let this go, and I like the words that you said, I am me, I'm being me. And my journey started when it boiled down to the loss of identity. I had no identity other than by association. It's like, wait a minute, I have a name, I'm a person, I'm more than just so-and-so's mother, right? I'm more than just the lady that writes for the newspaper, all these things of association. And, and as that story goes, it's developed into a lot of different things. And that's why I refer myself as an identity revelation specialist, right? And so with the self-discovery, so I help you become your own self-discovery archaeologist. Because, an archaeologist, sometimes, they put in a stick of dynamite and blow things up, and then the little work starts coming, and then it's the little dusting, and it's move this rock, and a little dusting, and move this rock, and stuff like that. And when you're looking to find those things inside of you that have caused some issues and why you're responding one way or another, and the changes that you're looking to make, how can you make them? But you got to discover and recognize that, oh, that's the issue. That's the thing that's making this thing run on autopilot, right? And so working through those avenues. So for me, my journey put me here in this part of the journey, helping others to overcome that emotional stress and debris that has got them, like you said, you're filled with shame and blame and the guilt, and again, as a child, it's an event. And personally, what I've watched and over the years and talking with people, the event that happened as a young child was not the event that we have in our heads as an adult, because we didn't know any better there. It was just what it was. And then as life goes on and people are talking about different things, you see different things in movies, people make different comments, you read a story that relates, and the words that people say, oh my gosh, somebody like that, they should be shot, or oh my gosh, that is so awesome, and there's like, how could they do that? It's just all that stuff. And then you're sitting here taking in that emotion of, oh my gosh, I can't let anybody know. If anybody knew that this happened to me, oh my God, they would hate me. They're going to talk about me like they're just saying this, So all of that stuff starts building up, so this little tiny event turns into this massive thing that begins to rule your life and runs your life with guilt and blames and shames, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you hit the nail on the head there, that I spent all of these years changing my life, have a home, husband, family, putting that gloss on. And I spent all my time making sure no one found out that story because of those reasons, thinking, well, they will think that I can't be a mother, I can't be a businesswoman, I can't photograph other women, I can't
Right.
And I spent all this time hiding it, so when no one discovered it. So I took control and thought, okay, I'll tell everyone. But everyone had such a wonderful reaction. All
that stuff you thought they were going to do and say was like out the window, and they're like coming up and hugging you and say, whoa, oh my gosh, and you're like, wow, what was I afraid of? So again, that fear, that fear of what's on that other side.
It definitely, fearful. I've spent years being fearful of everything,
right?
Of even talking, showing emotions, letting anyone in, fear, guilt, shame, all these things,
right.
and they've just gone, like, woof, they've just gone. And I'm like, wow. But my first step was to actually admit how bad it was. To myself, I thought I'd escaped it, right, because I'd moved on and was living a happy life and all these things. Well, I hadn't. And the first thing was taking myself back. I had to take myself back, and each time I wrote, it led on to something else, and it kind of, I was like, oh, I'd forgot that, and I had to process everything, kind of go through it all, and I literally took myself back, kind of thing. So it was a process, and it was well worth it. And for me, since then, I've had a few charities ask me to come and help with children and sort of share a little bit of my story, and I kind of think to myself, if I'd had that when I was a child, it would have helped.
Right. And that's and so that's what's so important, that you actually now chose to be an expression of that, to where you're going to be changing so many people's lives. And that's one of the things, that this show is all about. So I want you guys out there that are listening, is to pay attention to what she just said here. If I would have had something like this kind of help as a child, my life would have been so much different, But again, you can't change the past, but you can change the future, right?
Sure.
By changing the now. So to be able to be that expression of, because you know what, Sophie, not only are you going to touch lives of these little children that may be in that experience already and not have to take that forward of feeling that there was something wrong with them, that it was their fault, when in essence it's not, right? To be able to stop that at this point is beautiful. And then on the other spectrum, someone may read your book or they may hear this conversation. They may be 70 or 80 or 90 and have carried that all their life, and all of a sudden you've given them peace.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you go ahead.
I feel like that as well, because at one point I thought, oh, I've wasted all those years. But then you flip that and you go, well, okay, but what's in front of me? Wow,
Yes.
what's in front of me?
Yes.
You know, it's amazing. It's amazing for me personally to feel that like that,
Right.
and have other people contact me and say, I thought I was alone. I thought
Exactly. And that you hear that all the time. It's like, wow, somebody else actually had this experience too. And it really opens up, and it creates that support, team. And it is a team, and women, different than men. I mean, our whole chemistry and physiology is different. Have that more compassionate, that nurturing, ability. And this is why you're seeing more and more women coming together in a lot of these big groups and stuff, and connecting to be a support system, to be just I just need to get it out. No judgments here or anything, just being able to be an expression. And not everybody has to put it in a book. Not everybody has to go in the face of the camera, but it's just getting it out to release that, because it changes your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, and even your spiritual health, right?
Yeah.
Life
Definitely.
changes.
Yeah, definitely it does, and keeping it in does not work at all. It will eat you from the inside out. And
Right.
unfortunately for my mother, she had a child taken away from her when she was 19, back in the 60s, because that's what they did over here, and that's what ate her alive. From
Right.
the age of she died at 59. It ate her alive, because she shared that with not one single soul. I've found that out since, in the last couple of years, and that just proves we're here to help each other, aren't we? We're on this
Right.
planet, a community, as to share love and help each other when we're down, help each other, praise each other when we're up. And she's a prime example of someone who didn't share her woes, her sorrow, her pain, and she slowly destroyed herself. And
Yeah.
it's a sad end to her story.
Yeah, and it's not like, I mean, because I grew up, in that same era, okay, and you didn't share your dirty laundry. I mean, there were some people out there that are just like, hey, woe is me, oh, come on, I'm the victim, oh, it's like, no. But again, there's extremes
There's a
on
hard-
both sides, right? And so
Yeah.
it's really understanding and being that support, being that sounding board for someone who needs it, because we all have, shall we call them, skeletons in the closet, right? We all have things that have gone on in our past that we don't want to share because we're embarrassed, or again, you get all that chatter. How are people going to think of me, and how are they going to act, and are they going to think I'm contaminated? All these different things, right?
Yeah, definitely right. You do keep it in. I mean, I don't know my mother's reasons for keeping it in. I would imagine it's a whole range of those emotions.
Sure.
But you're right. There are the people that woe is me, and I drink, I do this, I do that because this has happened to me.
Right.
And then we have people that keep it all in and try to be strong, and it quietly kind of keeps them hidden.
Right.
There's a fine line, isn't there? And
There is.
Yeah, I've always been a character where I wouldn't share my story because I didn't want to go down that woe is me. And
Right.
I've tried on my writing isn't woe is me, because that's not what I feel. I don't feel like that. I feel that was my story, and it's for a reason, and it's made me who I am. And
Exactly.
made me a person.
Yeah.
So, you know, luckily that's my mentality. I know there's other people that they struggle deeply.
Right. You know, and again, you've learned how to disconnect from the emotional ties to it, the emotion that binds you to that event. You know, when you can release the emotional, the guilt and the blame and the shame and all that, when you can eliminate that, it doesn't give the event any more power, and it doesn't impact you as you move into your future and doing your daily whatever it is that you do, right? And so that's the key, is to learn how to disconnect from the emotion, and that's probably the hardest part. And that's why people like yourself and me that can come in and say, okay, we get it, we get you, yes, yours is different, but the emotions are the same. Let's see what we can do to disconnect from the emotion. And once you do that, that's where that freeing comes, where you just feel light, and there's that freedom, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can breathe, I can run, I can jump, I can live, because you're not being bogged down by those old emotions, because they will come up in other aspects of life and other events and show their little nastiness, right? That holds you back from actually becoming all that you can be. And that's kind of what this show's theme is all about, is being that best you that you can be. And what can you do to keep making yourself better and better and better, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's an ongoing process, isn't it? Like you've just said, they come up, don't they? Like imposter syndrome. It's always creeping up, isn't it? It's always just there ready. And it's learn what it is firstly, and then learning little ways to overcome it, to push through it. And sometimes you just need to give yourself a push, don't you? Sometimes you have to say, okay, I am feeling like this, but I want that, so I'm going to have to just push through. And something really important that you just said, which I hadn't thought about, was not giving the past or the event or whatever it is the power, taking that power away.
Right.
That's exactly right. That has no power. It has, unless you allow it to have that power. So when you take it away, you do feel that lightness, and that's exactly how I felt after I shared. I was like, exactly that. You feel light.
Yeah, you feel like a dump truck that just dumped a whole load of gravel, right?
And it's physical. It's not just an emotion. You physically feel like, whoa! I can skip down. Whoa! And I think I spent a few weeks like that, just kind of like, oh yes, just embracing everything. That's not to say that I haven't reflected and felt a little bit, and still sometimes that little girl. I realised that even though physically I'd matured into an older woman, mentally I was still a 5-year-old girl, sitting, crying, listening to things I shouldn't be listening to. And even though I've got children, I've got grown-up children, I hadn't matured, but now I've matured, and I like it. I like who I am. You have to put the work in. You first have to go. Well,
and it's recognizing. If you don't recognize that this is the problem, if you just keep on, when you keep on keeping on in that same processing and stuff, that's when the victim and the pity party and all that continues to play. But when you recognize that, I'm not the victim, and I don't need to carry this baggage anymore, because now I recognize where it come from and how it got here and why it's here. It does not serve purpose. It gives you the opportunity then to release it and take the power away from the event, and life changes really fast.
Yes. Yeah, it does. And it snowballs. It really does. And people you're meant to come in contact with kind of just appear. It's kind of they never knew them before, and there they are, and you think, and opportunities.
Right.
And for me, Where before I'd dilly-dally about, I'd be offered something. Oh, should I? No, I can't do that. Not me. Now I'm like, do I want to? Yes, I will. You know, it
Yeah.
kind of things. Everything moves, doesn't it?
It does, because the things that were holding you back, that pile of gravel, right? That backpack, as you put it, right, isn't there anymore, holding you back. That's the power and the freeing that it gives you when you just let it go. Just speak it out, right? It doesn't matter what it sounds like or anything. And sometimes it can be very uncomfortable, but once you start doing it and you start unloading, it's like you just want to keep unloading. So
because once you've felt lightness, that's where you want to be.
Exactly.
And I've noticed, I can see it in other people, when they're feeling, it's as if it's a physical thing, isn't it?
You can watch the whole physiology change. They stand up straighter, their shoulders aren't rounded anymore. They walk taller. It changes lives. It changes lives. Sophia, what is the name of your book?
I'll show you.
Okay.
And is it The Girls Who Refuse to Quit?
Oh my gosh, I just got chills from that. The Girls That Refuse to Quit. Wow.
And whose baby it was, whose idea, she's an author of lots of other books. She's actually doing a volume 2 with some other ladies now, because it just took off. It was just so lovely. And the stories are fantastic in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That is definitely a series that's going to definitely change lives. So thank you again for sharing that. Show us the book cover again.
Oh, there we go.
There it is. Wow, that is just beautiful. That's beautiful.
And my own book, when it eventually comes out, fingers crossed for this year, will be called Escaping Bohemia.
All right. I like that. Ooh, that's tingly. That's tingly.
Whenever I always used to say my childhood was bohemian, and that's how I used to kind of sprinkle a little bit of glitter on it rather than being truthful about what it was. So I've decided to go down that theme.
And that's great. That's great, because it's something that people relate to because they've heard you use that word. It's something that's truth to you. And again, that false truth, you've created that own little world in there.
Yes.
To hide this little world over here, and to get back to that world there where the truth is, to be able to grow and to heal, you need to move the fantasy world and now get to the meats and potatoes. And that's not always simple,
No.
So it's a challenging, and there are people out there that you can reach out to. So reach out to Sophia, anyone that's out here listening, that if you want a sounding board, reach out to me. If we can't do it for you, definitely we'll know someone who can help you with that. And if you have a story that you want to share, we'll talk with Sophia. She might be able to hook you up with this author so that you can actually help other people as well, right? Or start a book yourself, right? Yeah. So Wayne Dyer always said, and I love Wayne Dyer, he said, don't die with your story in you.
Oh, yes.
Right? Don't die with your story in you. I mean, so again, let's, just revert back here for a second. When you said you just found out recently what was eating your mother alive all these years that nobody knew, and it came out, that deep, dark secret, that story of losing a child at 19, right? And there was no rhyme or reason. Somebody thought it was a good thing, obviously. But again, you don't know what the guilts were. It's like, oh, maybe I should have fought harder. Maybe I should have stole my baby and ran to another country. All these coulda, shouldas that you can't change, right?
No.
So being able to recognize, that, and being able to be an expression of it. So don't let your story die in you. It's okay to tell your version of it instead of hearing somebody else's years later, So Make it your story. This was your story. Don't let somebody else tell it for you, because they ain't gonna tell it the same. So.
No, they're not. They're definitely not, because everyone sees everything differently, don't they? And
Right. Yeah, perspective.
yeah, I love Wayne Dyer too, and I was listening to him while the book was kind of getting to publishing stage, and yeah, so he really helped me.
He's very inspirational, very inspirational. So, oh my gosh, Sophie, we could just keep on talking and talking and talking. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here on the show, and good luck on your book. You don't need luck. It's happening. It's taking off. Expose that. Get your other story out there and just really share it with the world and make a difference as you already are. I want to thank the audience for listening, and we're going to see you all on the next show. So thank you again, Sophia.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's go out there, be that best you that you can be today, because Sophie and I are going to be the best we that we can be. See you all on another show.